So this Super Sunday, I've decided to dedicate to Paradoujin. I think is a great collective, but I wanted to expand that and talk about the entire UK underground in terms of music and what it means to be a UK underground artist, and just explain more about what these guys are and what they do. And then later on, there's going to be a review of Big Nate, Not a Drill 2. It's great. Quite a decent EP that I think kind of exemplifies a bit of what the UK underground is about, as well as looking at Kish's latest mixtape that dropped a couple days ago, the Fantastic Preservation Society. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. So, what is the UK Underground? What is it about? Who are these people? Why does it exist? These are all the questions that I kind of want to get into and what it kind of means to be UK Underground. I feel like the UK Underground is a place of freedom. It's a bunch of artists that all share the kind of idea that they understand that the mainstream doesn't necessarily have a place for them, but they don't necessarily care, and they just wish to create a place for their own and for themselves to exist and to be able to thrive and do what they do best. I feel like in terms of music, everything kind of feels like it has its allotted place where it's supposed to go, and kind of genre restrictions and that sort of thing. And you're kind of hammered in by the supposed trends and barriers to entry to those genres. And people feel like it has to be a certain thing, and you have to be a certain thing in order to fit into these allotted places for where your music can go in order for you to thrive. I feel like the UK Underground is essentially rejecting that entire principle. It makes it a kind of mission statement to say we want to experiment with whatever we want and be the types of people that we are, and not have to worry about how marketable we are or how hard or how cool we look in terms of our image, but just be more focused on their art than anything else. Operating in the UK Underground as an artist is like being in one big laboratory full of a bunch of crazy scientists that the rest of the world can't really quite get behind for all sorts of reasons, and having all of them share each other's ideas and have their own little crazy experiments going on just to see what they can cook up for the hell of it because they think it's fun. Like a lot of these artists, and I think all of them, they very much operate without the hamstring of mainstream trends and everything that comes with that, or the attempts to fit into a certain genre classification. And they also embrace the idea that, yeah, we don't fit into any of these genre classifications, but we're going to use and abuse all of these genres to create whatever the hell we feel like. It's almost like there's so much audacity to these people, which makes them really interesting as artists. In terms of what genres you'll find amongst UK underground artists, it's very wide and very broad, simply because of the kind of philosophy that the UK underground embraces, the idea where it's a place for experimentation. We throw all the regular rule books out the window and we come up with whatever we can come up with. There's all sorts of different personalities because it doesn't matter how marketable you are. It's just about what you can create as a result of who you are and who you attempt to be as an artist. What kind of drew me in was the whole trend in UK underground of using different influences of lo-fi hip-hop and lo-fi sounds in general, and mixing it in with so many other different genres just to see what they can come up with. With hearing lo-fi grime, lo-fi drill, and it's kind of just really been blowing my mind and really captivating me recently, and that's kind of how what got me into the UK underground itself. And even then you can trace kind of the early ages of hip-hop and punk to being part of the UK underground, this place of experimentation that doesn't feel hamstring to mainstream trends, even though it uses and abuses them to achieve whatever they want to achieve as artists. It's almost like a rebellion of sorts is what I feel like the UK underground is. It's a rebellion against what it's supposed to be an artist. Supposedly, to be an artist, you have to be successful, you have to be loved by the mainstream and do things for your fans and do things to be able to get streams and that sort of a thing. But the UK underground kind of just throws convention out the window and says, well, that's the space we're supposed to try and get to, but instead we're just going to make a space for ourselves to exist in, and that's going to be enough for us because we're going to love what we do within that space. There's so many different collectives and music collectives of artists and labels out there that kind of embrace this sort of idea. A couple of the ones that I wanted to shout out were Loud House, Paradoujin, there's a whole platform in of itself, 237 Mob, Reservoir's a great label as well, and there's plenty of others out there. The 9-8 Collective is another one that I am a particularly huge fan of because of Finn Foxell and Lava LaRue. I think they're both great artists and I think they have a lot to offer, as well as the entire collective as a whole. But there are plenty of UK undergrounds that truly embrace what it means to be independent, and they very much are lone warriors. Even though they all interact with each other and support each other within this community that is UK underground, they do operate as kind of lone warriors, even though some of them have management teams, some of them manage themselves and just use the resources they have available to them, but still embrace this idea and philosophy. And I've got a pretty long list of people I want to shout out, so please get a pen and paper, note down all these names, and hopefully one of these guys will be your new favourite artist this year. You've got guys like Lord Apex, Wishmaster, Broken Pen, Reese Miller. Also got guys like Benny Mails, Kaisen X, Kayadita. I don't know if I butchered his name, but I think it's Kayadita or Kadiata. I always butcher his name and I had no idea how to say it. You've got guys also like Jeshi, Masterpiece, and Black Josh. I think Myra May is also pretty amazing. People like Coltrane, Bakar, Parallel, and everyone in House of Pharaohs, not just Sam Wise. I think they're all a really talented bunch, but Sam Wise in particular does stand out. He does a lot more solos, either as just songs as well as EPs and projects. So all of these guys are worth checking out, and these are all personal favorites of mine that I kind of wanted to just share with the world, hopefully, or whoever ends up watching this. So to talk a bit more about Paradoujin, Paradoujin is an interesting platform that is run by Kish Fantastic, whose mixtape I'm going to be reviewing after this. Basically, it's a celebration and a collective of everything underground and supporting all the artists either in 237 Mob, all other artists that are within the UK underground in all sorts. Some of the names I even mentioned there, uploading various music videos to their YouTube channel, and they have playlists full of other UK underground talent, as well as some dedicated to 237 Mob. Also a big thing in promoting female talent, because there's a lot of that in the UK underground, even though sadly on my list, I know it's going to sound really bad, but there's only one woman that I mentioned on that list of kind of lone warriors that operate in the UK underground. But I feel like a lot of the women that I like in UK underground, they are part of the collectives that I already mentioned. So obviously Lava LaRue and Nyana Els, I think that's how you say her name, I think she's great as well, but they all operate in the collectives that I previously mentioned. So please go have a look at these guys, they're great. One thing I think about them is great is that Paradoujin let you upload to their YouTube channel for free. I feel like there's so many barriers to entry in the music industry that kind of hampers our creativity, and you have to think about, can I monetize this? Is this going to make money, rather than is this the music I want to make? And you're having to think about all these things in terms of, is it worth all that trouble to get your music out there if people aren't going to listen to it, because I have to spend all this time and effort pushing it and paying certain people and getting past all the gatekeepers. And Paradoujin does its job to make the UK underground such a welcoming place to be a part of as an artist. Even if it's not on their YouTube channel or not one of the artists that they directly affiliate with, they still give a lot of their support for a lot of these tracks on their Instagram pages, as well as Twitter and all their other socials. So they really do their bit to try and look out for everyone in the UK underground and be as encompassing as the UK underground scene really can be and really is. I feel like that's all I have to say about the UK underground for now, and about Paradoujin as a platform. But I think it's really great. There's plenty of names on that list that are great artists as well, and I feel like one of them you'll like, but there's plenty of other artists that aren't on that list that I don't even know exist. That will really blow your mind with some of the stuff that they have to offer for you. So please kind of look out for any of these people. Follow all of these guys on social media if you can find them. Obviously you can go back to the video and get a pen out and note a lot of these names down, but they all really are worth looking at. But now we're going to move on to Big Nate and his EP Not a Drill 2.
I've got skills, get dubs like Manny. Man's got flair when I'm out in the field. Man's got flair. They don't want smoke, but the man there might get billed. I want money like hands in trousers. I'm trying to have a...
So, Big Nate is one of the members of 237 Mob, alongside Kish and a couple of others. He's one of the artists that regularly post on the Paradoujin platform, and I feel like he's quite experimental a lot of the time, and that comes across on his recent mixtape Chronicles of Nate, which is when I ran across him. And I do think he kind of encompasses a lot of what UK Underground is. He had a previous EP called Not a Drill, and the idea was kind of a play on the idea that it is actually a drill EP, even though it's called Not a Drill. So it was kind of a little joke kind of thrown in there as the title, and it's kind of an ironic title based on the content of the EP itself. And this is a sequel from that. I like the first one. I feel like he came with some interesting ideas, and some of the drill beats themselves were quite interesting and had quite a lot of variance to them. So I took a dig into this one. I mean, I feel like I'm going to start on a bit of a negative note because I feel like it's quite disappointing how a lot of the beats in this one aren't really as interesting as some on the first iteration of this EP. I found these beats were just nothing really to marvel at. There's nothing I couldn't really find anywhere else, and even then, on some of the beats, there were some quality issues that I have with them in general. There's only 3 tracks on this, so I feel like it only makes sense to go into a fair amount of detail for each of the 3. Underdog is my favourite song on this EP. I do like how, even though the beat isn't that interesting like some of the other 2, but I do feel he has a lot of punchlines to kind of fill it out, and as a lyricist he can hold his own and he can engage you, and I do like the actual songwriting itself. And also, I do like the kind of low pass filter he's used on the stabs to go underneath his voice. I think that's a nice touch. Adds a little something in there as well. Doubling up lyrics is something that's used often, and sometimes they use different effects on them. And I feel like these sort of things, it's nice to hear, and it adds a bit of variance to the track, so it's not just another drill song. I feel like Business, in terms of the beat, I just feel like it's quite generic. It's just your classic kind of piano beat with some 808 slides and a bass line underneath it. I don't think there's anything special there, but I do like Big Nate's beats, like flow switches on this beat. But I feel like a couple of the lyrics are quite cliche in nature, so I don't think he quite stands out lyrically on this one as he did on the previous track. LXDXP, I like how diverse his flows are coming with this, but I feel like he could have taken a bit more care with the verse because I feel like he's racing the beat a little bit at times. Also, I do feel like there was this one part where the kind of like the lyrics from the verses, so like you've got where one bar finishes and then the next bar starts, the vocals actually overlap, so you lose clarity over what he's saying, even though his lyrics are actually pretty good. I think his lyrical performance is pretty damn good, and he has some pretty clever lines in there, but it's errors like that, it makes it hard for you to really get into the track, and it's kind of annoying. But I do think as an artist he's really damn good and he really shows you what he's got, but I just feel like those sort of things, it could have just been cleaner all around. If you're looking in terms of flows and you're kind of thinking that you think it's a bit stale at the moment where everyone's coming up with very similar flows, I feel like LXDXP is going to be very much for you. I think his flow is very much going to catch you off guard, and in terms of what you're expecting him to come in with is not how it turns out. Active, I feel like, yeah, the 808's coming a bit mean. Like I like how them 808s come in. It's aggressive, and in that way, it does stand out a fair amount. In terms of kind of just nitpicking things, it sounds like some of the 808s are a bit off key, but that's kind of just nitpicking. I don't know if every listener will really be affected by that or even noticed, but that's just something that I picked out. I do like the punchlines that Big Nate comes up with in the hook, you know, wave like typhoon, that sort of thing, and the radioactive bar with Fallout. I do think those were pretty clever. I do like them. But one thing I did kind of annoying about song structure with this, there's too much of a gap in between the hook and the verses. And it kind of, it's like a waiting room and you're waiting so long for this verse to come in, if that makes sense. Give a specific bit, it's after Nate's verse on this track, and then the hook comes in again, and then the hook plays twice and it runs twice through, and then you've got that gap, and then you've got Wisdom's verse. I feel like it didn't really need to be like that. You could have literally had that hook run once and then go straight into Wisdom's verse. But then, like, for this bit of the track, you feel like you're in a waiting room waiting for the next verse to come rather than just enjoying the hook, because the novelty of the hook is gone because you've had it 4 times already. Because even at the beginning, we had the hook run twice in terms of the bars in that hook. So I feel like some song structure things that I would fix there. So overall, I'm going to give this a C-, and I feel like Nate has done and can do better than this. I feel like a lot of the beats don't really offer very much that's that exciting or that creative or anything in that aspects that's that different than what you've already heard or are hearing in the drill scene as a whole. But I do like what Big Nate in terms of flows brings to a lot of these tracks. I do think there's a lot of variance there. I do like the features, but I feel like there's a lot you can pick at that could have made them better, and I feel like there could have just been more care taken over them. I didn't really get into Wisdom's verse, but I felt like I liked Wisdom's verse for the same reasons that I liked LXDXP's verse. The flows aren't conventional at all, and it really does catch you off guard, and the kind of skippy flows on drill. I feel like a lot of drill rappers, they kind of despise rapping fast. I understand fast isn't always good, and having skippy flows isn't always going to make everything better, but the variance that it brings is quite nice to be able to switch up flows like that and they get a bit more technical with them, and I do like that, and I do like what they bring to the tape. Well, thank you for reaching the end. That's everything I pretty much have to say about this one. This is a bit of a long video. I decided to do both of these segments together. The next video is going to be the Kish Fantastic review. Be great if you guys all went and watch that. Like and subscribe if you want to see anything more like this in terms of understanding different genres and the UK underground as a whole. If you like my reviews, like and sub again. That's basically what I do with this channel at the moment. I am looking to try and diversify content and that sort of a thing. But thank you very much. See you in the next video.